members of the BASWA committee are here with 2 absent. That includes Councilman Fairbanks and Councilman Bilsbach.
You have 9.
I beg your pardon, 9.
Maybe 10.
There's Joe Hawaii.
There's a copy of the Open Meetings Act. It's posted in the meeting room and is accessible to the public at any time during the course of this meeting. First item on the agenda is item 2, consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the BASWA committee and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a BASWA member or citizen so requests. First item is item A, approve agenda as submitted. Item B, receive and place on file all notices pertaining to this meeting. Item C, receive and place on file all materials having any bearing on this meeting. And item D, approval of minutes of regular meeting on September 21st, 2015, as on file in the city clerk's office. Any item that any member wants removed from the consent agenda? The public? Mr. Catlin?
Mayor, I move that all the items listed under the consent agenda be approved, accepted, and ratified as presented.
Second.
Been moved by Catlin, seconded by Party, that all items under the consent agenda be approved. Your vote, please. Gentlemen, Mr. Hill? And that is approved, 10-0. 10-0. Okay. There is not no public hearings or bids. First item on the agenda is a resolution number 42, to establish the rates and charges that apply to the use of the solid waste disposal facility.
Mayor, I move that the resolution number 42 be passed and adopted.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Bilsbach, that resolution number 42 be passed and adopted. Discussion.
If you see in your packet on page 5, we have a memo that kind of outlines the changes that we're looking at. You'll notice that sections 2, 3, and 4, the prices in there were changed to reflect the new hauling contract that we have. And so there's really nothing new in those provisions. And section 5 has to deal with roll-off containers and dumpsters. We did increase those prices. You'll see about 45 cents per cubic yard for non-compacted dumpsters and 90 cents per cubic yard for compacted dumpsters. Probably the biggest changes in sections 6 and 7, and that's where we're instead of charging everybody by the cubic yard, we're switching people over to charging them by the ton. A couple reasons is how many cubic yards are in the back of a truck varies depending upon who goes out and tries to eyeball or measure how much is in the back of that truck. Also, when we report things to the state, we have to report and pay tipping fees based upon tonnage. And so it's easier to have everything come through in one measurement. Tons is the easiest way to do it. We have a scale out there. We have a new piece of machinery that runs tickets for us very conveniently and efficiently. And so we're proposing changing everything over to billing commercial haulers by the ton. You'll notice that for your commercial haulers, it's $45 a ton or any fraction thereof. For section 7 talks about non-commercial haulers. This would be the guy who wants to bring out a truckload on the weekend, cleaned out his garage, has some items to come out. You'll see we have some breakdowns in there. 0 to 199 pounds is $15. We have different price breaks in there just to make it easier for people when they come in to know exactly what they're going to be paying. When we went through and we looked at these new prices based on tonnage, Jason went through and looked at a couple of different months to see how our current pricing compared to the new pricing by the ton. They were pretty close to being the same. There wasn't a large increase or decrease in any one month or the other, so it's not a way to generate additional revenue. It's just simply a way to change people over to being paid by the ton or being billed by the ton.
Questions? Mr. Party?
Isn't the 500 to 1,900 pounds kind of liberal? You got 1,400 pounds differences in that
It seems that way, but honestly, we really don't. From looking at the 2 months that I looked at, we really don't get there aren't really a lot of loads that come in that 1,000 to 1,000 plus. We really just don't see them come in the back of a pickup. Most of the time, if it does come in and it's that much weight, it's an item that goes to our C&D site, and which is still based on the $8 per cubic yard because it's construction debris. So it's, I thought that too, and I looked at it, and it just didn't. There just wasn't enough haul to have another spot there. I had looked at the possibility of adding another $40 charge in there. But in the 2 months I looked at, I think there was only 2 times that we would have charged $40. So what I tried doing was getting an easy pay scale based setup so that we weren't charging a great deal more. We were going to make a few dollars more than what we were going to lose. And I think this pay scale sets it up so that we're really not, people really aren't going to notice a big increase anywhere.
John?
How if we just charge up for the fraction of the ton, even if it's less than a ton? I mean, these light loads are what ends up in the greater ditches.
Yeah, but if you look at these amounts, for the months that were hauled in there, they're all pretty much the same thing of what you would have charged anyways. For a $31 load, you're going to pay $35. You know, or a $31 what would have been $31 before, you might be paying $35 for now. You know, everything is very close to what they were before. You were seeing a lot of 11s, 6, and these are standard charges. 11 was minimum. You'd see a $16 charge for a yard and a half. You were seeing 21s, you were seeing some 25s, and you were seeing 35s based on how many cubic yards. And that's where we were having the trouble. It was all over the place because you look and think what a cubic yard is in the back of a truck, and it's completely different to what Rick thinks is a cubic yard. When everybody's coming across the scale now and everybody's getting paid, weighed by the ton.
But if you bring in 205 pounds, you can save $25, you're going to pay more than half a ton. What's equivalent to half a ton?
But that's where everything was before, and it's still very
Well,
close to where we are.
And that might be the issue before, but I think that's why so much of it ends up in the greater ditch. That size of
But is $4 going to make somebody throw it in the greater ditch?
it. Yeah,
Well,
it will.
I don't know if we can argue that. You know, I guess looking at what this is people were coming out there and they were paying anywhere from $21 to $31
And I
before.
realize that's what they're paying, but this is a chance to kind of make it even and make it right.
Honestly, if you look at the 2 months, the 2 months that I looked at,
Right.
one was in the winter and one was later in the spring, and we made $100 more in a month on this scale. So we're not making money by any means switching to this. It's just keeping it standardized so that when the guy comes across the scale, we weigh him by the ton and we change it to cubic yards.
And I guess I'll make the same offer. I think the BASWA board should volunteer to pick up trash out of Riverside Township or one of the townships ones. Because there's a lot of it ends up out there.
We have taken, there has been exceptions. Honestly, if there's any illegal dumping that happens a mile south of the landfill, or if we see anything on Belvedere Road, anything like that, I have the landfill guys come up and pick it up, and we take those illegal dump sites in. Now that happens because you see it, it happens. Yeah, it's not a practice that we're going to preach, that we want to do all the time, but an illegal dump site is something that, we owe it to ourselves to go pick up if we know it's there. But it's, we have people that'll come to us and say, hey, I got a dump site, what do you guys want to do about it? I guess to me, that's for law enforcement to take care of. That's not for the landfill to take care of.
Any other comments from the council, the BASWA, or beg your pardon, the BASWA committee? Terry?
I guess it makes sense to me to go by the ton. That seems fair.
Everything's getting weighed by the ton, and then we're paying the NDEQ. We pay them $1.25 per every ton that comes across our scale anyways. It just so happens that when they come in and they have a ton on the back of their truck and we pay $1.25, we write it down in the book and we send it in downtown by the cubic yard. So it's just not a very good practice. And there are no other landfills around that are charging general garbage by the cubic yard. It's all by the ton.
Okay. Rich?
On these 0 to 199, 200, I was out there one day when we had 3 different guys and there was 3 different prices. Will you guys post these on the window out there?
Oh yeah.
So they know what's going on?
Everything
and-
gets posted. It'll be posted on the front window, and it'll be posted right when you walk in and you're paying. it gets posted on the little tabletop right
And then
there.
if they wanna see why, they can, that thing will duplicate tickets, won't it?
Yes.
So,
It actually in triplicate, because we end up keeping a ticket goes downtown and a ticket goes to the customer.
because that little gal was trying to explain it to those two guys. They weren't very happy.
No, honestly,
This
the,
kinda shuts it down.
it does, and honestly, the new scale system that we got in out there is a new program that when they come across, it takes a lot of the having to handwrite tickets out, because now when you come in, you actually type in on a keyboard general public or a contractor's name. He comes in, he weighs, he goes in, he dumps. The only thing that's going to change a little bit is now when you come in, we look at your truck and we guess what you have, and you pay us, and then you go dump, and then you come back and you weigh again going out, because we have to have your tons for the state. Now you're going to come in. We're gonna look at your truck, and we're going to write down Blue Ford, and you're gonna drive into the landfill. You're going to dump. You're going to come back out. You're going to pull back up again. We're going to type in your name back in again on the ticket, and then you come in and you pay based on tons. So, and it's going to take us just a little bit. And honestly, we've been running this by the tons now for the last 3 months. And we've also been doing everything by cubic yards, so that this program that we have set up, where every day, every ticket that comes into the landfill automatically gets logged into a program and sent downtown. So at the end of the month, the program tells us exactly how much tonnages we have had came in for the month. So we've been doing, it's been a little extra work. I've been having everybody do it by cubic yards on handwritten tickets like we've always done it. And we've also been sticking everything into the computer program by the tons. So just to make sure that when we do switch over to tons, that this thing has been up and running for 3 months and we don't have any bugs.
Any other questions of Jason? Anyone from the public? Yeah,
Just a little
Dwight?
bit off, but since you're doing the tonnage, it's so much easier now. Can we do the same thing in the future with wood we take out there, as far as trees?
If we need to look at reevaluating the price on landfill brush, we sure can. We're making, I believe we made almost 12,000 is what we made in brush last year, for the last year now in brush that came in. And I pay about $24,000 a year in grinding. Grinding runs between $500 and $600 an hour to have a guy come in and grind for me. So it doesn't pay the entire year's worth of grinding, but where we are right now is paying for about half of it. So I'm afraid if you do go any higher, you are going to see that show up somewhere else. If right now it's $5 for the general public, and that's been very well received. We really haven't had any problems with that. It's $10 for a contractor. And the only problems you really ever see is when you'll see a contractor who does brush cutting come in with a trailer full of wood, and then you see somebody who comes in with a pickup box that might have 5 or 6 brush, pieces of brush on it, and they pay $5 and he pays $10. Can we look at something adjusting it for a contractor? I think that's possible, but we just haven't looked at that yet.
Okay. Anything else for Jason? Anybody from the public? Jason, thanks a lot. Gentlemen, your vote, please. And that is approved 9-1 with Member Hill voting against. Resolution number 42 has been approved. Next item, I'd like to introduce resolution number 43, calling for the early redemption of $875,000 in aggregate principal amount of solid waste disposal facilities revenue bonds, Series 2011, issued by the Beatrice Area Solid Waste Agency.
Mayor, I move that resolution number 43 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Been moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook, that resolution 43 be passed and adopted. Discussion.
I'm going to let Mr. Mumford talk.
Mr. Mark Mumford?
Hello, thanks for
Welcome.
having me, folks. What we have before you is, I guess, currently the call resolution to call in existing bonds that were issued in 2011. We're in an interest rate scenario where we can lower the interest rate substantially from where you're at right now. So basically, it's not much different than refinancing your home, if you will. We're just going to try to lower the interest rate, bring it down. We do not, at this point in time, this is a little different than ordinary. Normally we come down with firm interest rates in hand. This actual resolution will be what we call a parameters resolution, which will allow us to move forward with 3 different entities. We've got BASWA, we've got the city, and we've got the county. And to try to get everybody together and get approval all at the same time, we're working on it. We're going to be at the county tomorrow morning, but this will allow us to move forward with authorization of an authorized officer, okay? So either the mayor, the chairman, anybody on that board that is an authorized officer. So rather than have to come back to an additional meeting and time the sale of these bonds to that meeting, we'll be able to do it at any time moving forward once you've approved it, okay? So with that being said, I do have some preliminary numbers. I don't know if you guys have seen preliminary numbers.
Yeah, they have them in, what you sent me, they're in their packet.
Okay, you've seen that, where the idea was, and I've been talking to Tobias about this, I don't know how long we've been going on this, trying to get it squared away, but it's been a month and a half or 2 at least. Looking at shortening the bond issue rather than taking savings every year, we're looking at shortening it almost by 3 full years, the way the numbers play out. Now, granted, those are preliminary numbers, so we may be a little better, we may be a little worse, but those are going to be ballpark. We'll also have a dated date on there of August 3rd, and since we're already at July 5th, we may have to move that dated date a little bit backwards or a little bit further back to maybe August 10th or what have you. I also just spoke with Linda about the debt service reserve number that's in there. We originally used $157,000 because when you refinance the bonds, we have to refund and put a new debt service reserve in place, and legally they won't let us leave the old debt service reserve and just leave it as is. So that's now up to almost $200,000. Is that correct, Linda? Correct. Or ballpark? So I will have conversation with Linda and the city and Tobias if they'd like to put more of that money towards the new debt service reserve. We'll shrink that bond issue a little bit more. So it would only make sense because it was originally funded with bond proceeds, so it has to be spent on bond proceeds. And normally it pays off the last year of the bond issue. But so those are just a few things that I wanted to touch base on. One thing I did notice on my paperwork here, we have the wrong time. We had 6 o'clock for this meeting rather than 6:30, so we'll need to make that adjustment on the resolutions that I would have here for you. Okay, I don't think that's a major deal, but I did notice that. Any questions of me?
Questions of Mark? Rick first.
What is it, Mark? What does it cost us to refinance? Is that the
Okay, if you see
10,000 plus?
yeah, you
4?
see where it says underwriting spread,
Yep.
or what's it say? Total underwriter's discount.
10,000.
10,000 roughly, yes. And that pays. Oh, the other thing I would note in there, that pays emeritus's fee. About 60% of that goes to pay the sales agents that sell the bonds. So that's at $10,250. I can see if I can sharpen my pencil on that a little bit, but that's pretty fair, I think, at this point in time. Cost of issuance, $4,000 is the legal opinion, and we did have a conversation with Tobias on that. We had some bond attorneys wanting $8,000 to $12,000 to do this. So we did do a little homework and found somebody who would do it for $4,000. So we felt like that was a little better deal than the 8 to 12.
Yeah.
So, and I know the original issue was done in 11. The legal fees were $20,000, which was outrageous. So,
So spend 14,000 to make maybe 78. Huh?
yeah. Well, when you're looking at those numbers, that net present value number of $78,670, that is net of fees. I mean, it's not you're saving 78 and then we're going to pull out the 14,000. That's your net number. Okay, does that make sense?
Yep.
Rich?
You said earlier that this was gonna shorten it up by 3 years, then another year. Is that 4 total years?
No, I'm sorry. It's going to shorten it, the way we've got it here, it's going to shorten it by almost 3 years.
Almost.
So you originally were gonna be done in 2027. You'll be done in 25 now, but you're only paying 15,000 in 25. Follow me? So we're not
Gotcha.
quite shaving that full third year off.
But we're close to having 3 years out.
Close to shortening it by 3. And depending on how the numbers come in, or if we up that debt service reserve contribution, we might be able to get rid of that third year. You know, it might, I mean, because that's more equity being contributed to this thing. We might be able to squeeze that out of there and shorten it by a full 3 years.
Good.
Any other questions? Anyone from the public? Terry, John, questions? All right, gentlemen, your vote, please. And that is approved 10-0. Resolution number 43 has been passed and approved. Next, I'd like to introduce resolution number 44, authorizing and approving the issuance of Beatrice Area Solid Waste Agency of its solid waste disposal facilities revenue refunding bonds, Series 2016.
Mayor, I move that resolution number 44 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Morgan, that resolution number 44 be passed and adopted. Any further discussion?
I think this is just the second half of the equation. The first one recalled those bonds, this issues the new ones to replace them, so.
Any questions from the council? BASWA members? Public? And your vote, please. And that is approved 11-0. Are you voting, Ted?
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Next item is Resolution 45, extending the third addendum to the service agreement between the City of Beatrice and the Beatrice Area Solid Waste Agency.
Mayor, I move that resolution number 45 be passed and adopted.
Moved by Catlin, second by Billsbach, that resolution number 45 be passed and adopted. Discussion.
There's just a service agreement that's been out there between BASWA and the city and the county for years. This authorizes us to issue those bonds. This is the same thing. They'll come before the city council later tonight and the county board, hopefully tomorrow morning. And so those are part of all the signatures that Mark's trying to collect before we can go out for issuance.
Questions, comments from anyone? Anybody from the public? And your vote, please. And that is approved 11-0. Resolution number 45 has been passed and approved. Thank you, Mr. Mumford.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
I guess we'll see you here in a few minutes.
We have no ordinances tonight. The next item on the agenda is a public forum. Purpose of the public forum is for the presentation of an item by the general public to BASWA for consideration at a later date. No discussion or action will be taken by BASWA at this time. Is there anything for the public forum? All right, we have no discussions, or do we have any reports?
We can just do a little status update if you'd like.
Okay.
It's been a while since we had a BASWA meeting, just kind of give you an update of what's going on at the landfill. We have retained the services of Burns and Mack. They are currently doing an evaluation of the baler. If you remember, there's been some discussion about getting rid of the baler, going to just loose filling. The preliminary report indicates that that's their best option. We're waiting to get that final report back from them. As we move away from the baler and start loose filling, that will mean that we need some additional equipment out there, or some different equipment, I should say. Largest thing being a compactor. And so I think you'll see us probably go out for bids here shortly on getting a compactor. So that will be a change out there. I believe Jason also handed out some information on some alternative cover that we're looking at. Today, at the end of the day, Jason's guys go out there and put 6 inches of dirt on top of the trash that's put out in the landfill. This piece of equipment will allow us to basically put down paper, a thin sheet of paper, sprinkle a little dirt on it so it doesn't fly away during the night. Come back the next day, just put trash on top of the alternative cover. So you can go from having 6 inches of dead space every day to, less than an inch of dead space every day. Doesn't sound like much, but over the course of 365 days in the landfill, it ends up being quite a bit of extra space that you're able to save and use to actually put trash in and save us money in the long run. So that piece of equipment has been ordered. It's on its way. We'll start using that here shortly. The other thing that of note is that Jason's been out working, trying to find some additional trash to come into the landfill, and he's been able to secure a contract with a hauler out of Kansas They'll be bringing their trash into the landfill starting this month already. He's come in a couple times. This additional landfill patron, if you will increase our trash by about 45% each year. So they're a significant hauler. They'll actually probably bring in more trash than what the city of Beatrice generates in a year. And so it's quite a significant new patron that we have out at the landfill. So we have that going on, and Jason's working on a couple of other ones if we can get those accomplished. So we're working on finding ways to bring additional revenue into the landfill at the same time Lou working on trying to make it run more efficiently. You getting rid of the baler, doing alternative cover, doing some things like that that hopefully will make the operations run a little more smoothly and more efficiently and economical. So it's kind of just a rundown of what's going on at the landfill. And we're still trying to lamp it to her, but it got a little hot for us a little quick, and so when it's warm, it's not the best time to go out and visit the landfill, so
I would
we
agree.
may wait for fall.
Compactor, don't you have the sheet foot anymore?
Not big enough.
Yeah, the compactor we're looking at is about 90,000 pounds. So
Any questions from anyone regarding Tobias's updates?
What's the rate that they're paying BASWA for their,
The new,
Kansas hauler?
the Kansas hauler, I believe it's what, $5 a ton to get them in and get them started here, so. It's a little discounted price, but at the same time, it's a rather significant hauler, and we can able to bring them in. And it's kind of a win-win for both of us.
But then since we're going to increase the amount of material going in, but minus the dirt going on top, you keep us afloat on what the lifespan changes may be.
We had some new topo shots done this last week, and we've got a hold of Burns and Mac already. They're updating their numbers, and what it'll probably result in is us increasing how quickly we start doing the piggyback work. We were originally looking at holding that off for about another year. We'll probably move that up to later this fall, starting that work so it's ready and operational by the time the current cell is full. So we have started to move those plans forward more quickly than what we initially anticipated.
Any other questions from the public? All right, Mr. Catlin, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the BASWA meeting.
Mayor, I move that the meeting be adjourned at 6:57 PM.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Kerr, that the meeting be adjourned at 6:57 PM. Your vote, please. That is approved, 11-0. Thank you, gentlemen.